Krishna. We'll start our class now. We'll begin with the auspicious Mangala Charanam. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shiyuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai. So, this is the first day of our Bhagavad Gita reading week. We go Tuesday to Saturday. And we will begin a new verse for memorization this week. So, last week we did 929. We're going to go to a nice verse from chapter 10, which is 10:8. So if you have your Gitas with you, please turn to 10:8, and we'll do the Sanskrit here together. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Do it again. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. And here we have a song for the English translation. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise are perfectly know this. Engage in my devotional service. Worship me with all their hearts. Like that. I'll do it again. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Jai. That's actually the Chatushloki. We made a song that goes, this whole Chatushloki, Bhagavad Gita is 10, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So that's the first part of it. All right. So now we're going to turn back to where we left off in our reading, which is the beginning of chapter 12. Last class we finished chapter 11. That was a long chapter. And now we're going to go to chapter 12, which is entitled Devotional Service. It starts with Arjuna asking a question, which is common for Bhagavad Gita chapters. Arjuna uvacha evam satata yukta ye bhaktastvam paryupasate ye chapyaksharam avyaktam tesham ke yoga vitamaha. Do you want to read Bhagavad Gita?
Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect, those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested. Purport. Krishna has now explained about the personal, the impersonal, and the universal, and has described all kinds of devotees and yogis. Generally, the transcendentalist can be divided into two classes. One is the impersonalist, and the other is the personalist. The personalist devotee engages himself with all energy in the service of the Supreme Lord. The impersonalist also engages himself not directly in the service of Krishna, but in meditation on the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested. We find in this chapter that of the different processes of realization of the absolute truth, Bhakti Yoga, devotional service, is the highest. If one at all desires to have the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he must take to devotional service. Those who worship the Supreme Lord directly by devotional service are called personalist. Those who engage themselves in meditation on the impersonal Brahman are called impersonalist. Arjuna is here questioning which position is better. There are different ways to realize the absolute truth, but Krishna indicates in this chapter that Bhakti Yoga or devotional service to him is the highest of all. It is the most direct and it is the easiest means for association with the Godhead. In the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord explained that a living entity is not the material body. He is a spirit whole. In the seventh chapter, he spoke of the living entity as being part and parcel of the Supreme Whole and recommended that he transfer his attention fully to the whole. Then again in the eighth chapter, it was said that anyone who thinks of Krishna at the time of quitting his body is at once transferred to the spiritual sky, to the abode of Krishna. And at the end of the sixth chapter, the Lord clearly said that of all yogis, one who always thinks of Krishna within himself is considered the most perfect. So, in practically every chapter, the conclusion has been that one should be attached to the personal form of Krishna, for that is the highest spiritual realization. Nevertheless, there are those who are not attached to the personal form of Krishna. They are so firmly detached that even in the preparation of commentaries to Bhagavad Gita, they want to distract other people from Krishna and transfer all devotion to the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. They prefer to meditate on the impersonal form of the absolute truth, which is beyond the reach of the senses and is not manifest. And so, factually, there are two classes of transcendentalists. Now, Arjuna is trying to settle the question of which process is easier and which of the classes is most perfect. In other words, he is clarifying his own position because he is attached to the personal form of Krishna. He is not attached to the impersonal Brahman. He wants to know whether his position is secure. The impersonal manifestation, either in this material world or in the spiritual world of the Supreme Lord, is a problem for meditation. Actually, one cannot perfectly conceive of the impersonal feature of the absolute truth. Therefore, Arjuna wants to say, what is the use of such a waste of time? Arjuna experienced in the 11th chapter that to be attached to the personal form of Krishna is the best, because he could thus understand all other forms at the same time and there was no disturbance of his love for Krishna. This important question asked of Krishna by Arjun will clarify the distinction between the impersonal and personal conceptions of the absolute truth.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so it might seem strange that Arjuna is asking this question at this point in the Bhagavad Gita, because as Srila Prabhupada was pointing out in the purport, like chapter after chapter, Krishna has been making it very, very clear that worshiping his personal form is the best thing. Devotional service is the highest yoga, and that if one just thinks about him as Krishna in his personal form, then he's going to go back to Godhead. And so, so why is Arjuna asking this question? Because some people, no matter how many times you tell them, they still don't get it, right? It's the people that read Bhagavad Gita and they're so insistent that the impersonal form of the Lord is the supreme form that they'll even, Prabhupada says, they'll even try to twist the words of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita to make it seem like he's promoting impersonalism. So Arjuna is asking this question just to give Krishna the chance to say it again and make it super clear, unequivocal, without a shadow of a doubt, which form of worship is better. The impersonal, to meditate, to worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested form of the Lord, or to worship Krishna directly in his personal form through devotional service. So, yeah, and as Prabhupada says, Arjuna also wants to clarify whether he's doing okay, because his natural tendency is to love Krishna in his personal form as Krishna. And he's thinking that, okay, well, now that I know that you're God, now that you made it very clear, you showed the universal form and everything, is it okay if I just worship you as you, or do I have to like try to meditate on your impersonal feature or something? So now Krishna's going to answer in text 2. So let's go ahead. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Veshyamano Ye Mam Nitya Yukta Upasate Shraddhaya Parayopetas Te Me Yukta Tamamataha. Good to go. Would you like to read, or are you busy doing something?
I can listen, sorry.
Okay, no problem. So I'll read this then. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Those who fix their minds on me in my personal form and are always engaged in worshiping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect." So a very clear answer. Krishna is saying that the most perfect spiritual practitioners are those who worship me in my personal form. Right? So yeah, Yuktatama, he says they're the most, the the best yogis, basically. Prabhupada's purport. In answer to Arjuna's question, Krishna clearly says that he who concentrates upon his personal form and who worships him with faith and devotion is to be considered most perfect in yoga. For one in such Krishna consciousness, there are no material activities because everything is done for Krishna. A pure devotee is constantly engaged. Sometimes he chants, sometimes he hears or reads books about Krishna, or sometimes he cooks prasadam or goes to the marketplace to purchase something for Krishna, or sometimes he washes the temple or the dishes. Whatever he does not let a single moment pass without devoting his activities to Krishna. Such action is full samadhi. So this is a little different from what generally like yogis or spiritual people consider samadhi. Usually they meditation, right? You sit down and cross your legs and close your eyes and meditate on the tip of your nose and shut out all external things, and you just withdraw your consciousness inside and you become absorbed in a trance and you're completely oblivious to the outside world or even your own thoughts, right? So that's generally what people think of as samadhi, but Prabhupada's giving a different, an alternative explanation, that the samadhi of the bhakti yogi is different from the samadhi of the ashtanga yogi. The samadhi of the bhakti yoga means that he's always thinking of Krishna, but he's not just sitting there, with his eyes closed and lotus position or something, but he's doing all kinds of service in devotion. So this is, yeah. And this is what makes bhakti more practical, is that, our nature is to be active and do something. We want to go here and do something. Nobody can sit for, days and days on end in meditation. We have to get up and do something after some time. So especially nowadays, people have such a short attention span, and just to like stop for 2 minutes and like stop doing something and stop looking at something or hearing something is like hard for people. So then, especially as Kali Yuga progresses, bhakti is really the only thing possible, right? Because we can do things, right? We can sing, we can dance, we can read, we can talk, we can cook, we can go shopping, we can wash the dishes, whatever we're doing, you can write books or build temples or whatever, make a social media post, or so many things that you can do for Krishna in the mission of spreading Krishna consciousness. There's actually so much that needs to be done to help others come to Krishna consciousness. And when we do these with the right mood, like with the intention to help other people, then Krishna is very pleased. And when we get absorbed in the service absorbed in a mood of devotion while we do those activities for Krishna, then that's actual samadhi. Very practical, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Few years back, like when I was on business, I saw some video where about people like they were renewing the temple, and then they found his body, which was lying from some 400 years, and he was in samadhi.
Mm.
So now I think like
He was still alive?
He was still alive,
Mm.
but like I feel like what is the use of he could control, he could get full control and can go in samadhi, but he did not get Krishna. That is why still he is alive and still on earth. Like he could not, even in 400 years, he could not reach the absolute truth because he was in samadhi, in not knowing anything, not thinking anything, or some other state.
Mm-hmm.
So like here, Krishna states so clearly that you have to be in me, or like even 50 years or 60 years would be good to go to Krishna if you are fully
Yeah.
dedicated, not 400
Why
years.
prolong the agony, right? Yeah, so despite his being absorbed in a meditative trance for 400 years, he couldn't even benefit himself, and what to speak of others, right? People didn't even know he was there. Whereas if he was actually going out and using his faculties, right, his power of speech, his intelligence, to be able to, talk to people, he can convince other people of higher spiritual values, and people to, make spiritual life a priority and stay chasing material things and all that. So yeah, he wasn't doing anything for anyone else, and he also was just prolonging his entanglement in a material body in the material world without being able to go back to Godhead. So yeah, and that's what Krishna is saying. He's saying that therefore be a bhakti yogi because it's the best. And now he's going to explain in the next two verses, Krishna is going to explain why this impersonal meditation is not so desirable. So let's read. Ye tvaksharam anirdeshyam avyaktam paryupasate sarvatra gam achintyam cha kutastam achalam dhruvam saniyam yandriya gramam sarvatra samabudhaya te prapnuvanti mam eva sarvabhuta hite rataha. Do you want to read, Prabhupada?
But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in the welfare of all, at least achieve, at last achieve. Those who do not directly worship the Supreme Godhead Krishna, but who attempt to achieve the same goal by an indirect process, also ultimately achieve the same goal, Sri Krishna. After many births, the man of wisdom seeks refuge in me, knowing that Vasudev is all. When a person comes to full knowledge after many births, he surrenders unto Lord Krishna. If one approaches the Godhead by the method mentioned in this verse, he has to control the senses, render service to everyone, and engage in the welfare of all beings. It is inferred that one has to approach Lord Krishna. Otherwise, there is no perfect realization. Often there is much penance involved before one fully surrenders onto him. In order to perceive the super soul within the individual soul, one has to cease the sensual activities of seeing, hearing, tasting, working, etc. Then one comes to understand that the Supreme Soul is present everywhere. Realizing this, one envies no living entity. He sees no difference between man and animal because he sees soul. Method of impersonal realization is very difficult.
Mhm. Yeah. So Krishna is saying that people who worship the impersonal Brahman, they eventually end up worshiping him anyway, right? It's just a matter of time before they see the light, basically. They think they're already seeing the light because they're thinking that God is just the light, right? Impersonal light. But when they actually see the light, figuratively speaking, they're going to see that Krishna is the supreme. So yeah, like Krishna already said in Bhagavad Gita 7:19, he says, Bahunam Janmanamante Gyanavam Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. That after many, many births and deaths, a person who's actually in knowledge realizes that that Krishna is the cause of all causes and all that is. And he says, such a great soul is very rare. So yeah, these impersonalist yogis, they may go on for many, many lifetimes, right? Like that person, 400 years in this life. He had a very long life. But where did they find him?
It was in the South Temple.
He was just
Yeah.
like in the basement there, like sitting.
Government was like, there were all the temples which was ruined by Mughals or anything.
Oh, it was like ruins of an old temple.
Yeah, it was ruined of the old temple and they were rebinding that, and then from some where they found this man's body.
So yeah, I don't know if you heard Pragati saying that there was this old ruined temple that was just in a shambles, all crumbling and falling apart, old stone temple. And the government decided to renovate it. So they were going in there and picking things up and trying to, rebuild. And then in some dark corner, he was sitting there, he's lying down.
It was a very big impact.
He was sitting, when was it? Some years ago?
So,
He was sitting there like in meditative position. And how did they know he was 400 years old?
yeah, I think they did something, some testing with the skin or
His fingernails or
yeah,
something.
so
So it's just like Prabhupada was saying here that, yeah, they have to cease to do this kind of yoga meditation. You have to cease all the activities of the senses, cease essentially like eating, no more seeing, no more hearing, no more tasting, no more. So they don't eat, they don't drink, they don't sleep. They just keep themselves like the life is just circulating, the life airs within the body, right? Yeah. So some people think because this is very difficult to do, they think that's very advanced. But Krishna's saying that no, that's just beginner level. And if you do that for many lifetimes, you realize that he's a person and that he's the ultimate worshipable Lord. So for some people, it takes many, many lifetimes to realize that Krishna is the absolute truth and that he's the ultimate object of worship and love. And so the different process to realize that. And one process is by, many lifetimes of cultivating knowledge, reading scriptures, doing austerities, practicing. If you are fortunate enough to get the mercy of a pure devotee, if you meet a pure devotee and you get his association and the merciful glance or words of kind words or prayers, compassionate thoughts and prayers coming in your direction, then even without doing all those things, by the power of a devotee, then Krishna's mercy comes directly through that devotee to us, and then we can realize him even without doing all these preliminary processes. Did you find it there?
yeah.
Let's see.
This, yeah, I don't know if this is the one.
Oh. Anyways, I don't know. You can look it up on Google about this guy. Anyways, it's a pretty extreme. It's amazing that people still can do that in this day and age. But yeah, the whole point is that after 300 years, he's still in the material world. Whereas devotees, if they practice sincerely, they get absorbed in devotional service. Then they get quickly purified by the power of the holy name and the mercy of Krishna, and by living a blissful life of service. After a short time, a few decades, they go back home, back to Godhead. Okay, so text 5, Krishna is going to continue talking about the impersonalists. Kleshodhikataras tesham avyakta sakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukam dehavadvir avapyate. Aruna, would you like to read?
Sure. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. Purport. The group of transcendentalists who follow the path of the inconceivable, unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord are called Jnana Yogis, and the persons who are in full Krishna consciousness engage in devotional service to the Lord are called Bhakti Yogis. Now, here the difference between Jnana Yogis and Yoga and Bhakti Yoga is definitely expressed. The process of Jnana Yoga, although ultimately bringing one to the same goal, is very troublesome, whereas the path of Bhakti Yoga, the process of being in direct service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is easier and is natural for the embodied soul. The individual soul is embodied since time immemorial. It is very difficult for him to theoretically understand that he is not the body. Therefore, the Bhakti Yogi accepts the deity of Krishna as worshipable because there is some bodily conception fixed in the mind, which can thus be applied. Of course, worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his form within the temple is not idol worship. There is evidence in the Vedic literature that worship may be saguna or nirguna, of the Supreme possessing or not possessing attributes. Worship of the deity in the temple is saguna worship, for the Lord is represented by material qualities. But the form of the Lord, though represented by material qualities such as stone, wood, or whale paint, is not actually material. That is the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord. A crude example may be given here. We may find some mailboxes on the street, and if we post our letters in those boxes, they will naturally go to their destination without difficulty. But any old mail or an imitation which we may find somewhere but which is not authorized by the post office will not do this work. Similarly, God has an authorized representation in the deity form, which is called Archa Vigraha. The Archa Vigraha is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. God will accept service through that form. The Lord is omnipotent, all-powerful. Therefore, by his incarnation as Archa Vigraha, he can accept the service of the devotee, just to make it convenient for the man in conditioned life. So for a devotee, there is no difficulty in approaching the Supreme immediately and directly. But for those who are following the impersonal way to supreme spiritual realization, the path is difficult. They have to understand the unmanifested representation of the Supreme through such Vedic literature as the Upanishads, and they have to learn the language, understand the non-perceptual feelings, and realize all those processes. This is not very easy for a common man. A person in Krishna consciousness engaged in devotional service simply by the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, simply by offering regulative obeisances unto the deity, simply by hearing the glories of the Lord, and simply by eating the remnants of foodstuff offered to the Lord, realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. There is no doubt that the impersonalists are unnecessarily taking a troublesome path, with the risk of not realizing the absolute truth at the ultimate goal. But the personalist, without any risk, trouble, or difficulty, approaches the Supreme Personality directly. A similar passage appears in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is stated there that if one ultimately has to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the surrendering process is called bhakti, but instead takes the trouble to understand what is Brahman and what is not Brahman and spend his whole life in that way. The result is simply troublesome. Therefore, it is advised here that one should not take up this troublesome path of self-realization because there is uncertainty in the ultimate result. A living entity is eternally an individual soul. And if he wants to merge into spiritual whole, he may accomplish the realization of the eternal and knowledgeable aspects of his original nature. But the blissful portion is not realized. By the grace of some devotees, such as transcendentalists, highly learned in the process of jnana yoga, may come to the point of bhakti yoga or devotional service. At that time, long practice in impersonalism also becomes a source of trouble because he cannot give up the idea. Therefore, an embodied soul is always in difficulty with the unmanifest, both at the time of practice and at the time of realization. Every living soul is partially independent, and one should know for certain that this unmanifested realization is against the nature of his spiritual blissful self. One should not take up this process. For every individual living entity, the process of Krishna consciousness, which entails full engagement in devotional service, is the best way. If one wants to ignore this devotional service, there is a danger in turning to atheism. Thus, the process of centering attention to the unmanifested, the inconceivable, which is beyond the approach of the senses, are already expressed in this verse, should never be encouraged at any time, especially in this age. It is not advised by Lord Krishna.
Okay, so that's very clear. Krishna is saying that, because in the previous verse he said that these people who choose to worship the impersonal form of the Lord, they at last achieve him. But problem is that it's very troublesome, right? He says it's very troublesome. Klesha means troublesome. It means miserable. It's miserable because, of course, it's miserable. You can't eat, you can't act, you can't have relationships, you can't see anything, you can't hear anything. It's like a sensory deprivation. And it's very troublesome for those who are embodied. In other words, embodied means for souls that are in a material body, because the body is has these senses, and the senses are always pushing us to do things, to act. The eyes want to see things, ears want to hear something nice, arms want to do something, legs want to walk. So if we deny all the senses of our body, then it's difficult for us. We can go a little crazy that way. So, but if we can use our bodies practically in the service of the Lord, then it's very easy. And Prabhupada said it's easy and it's natural for the embodied soul. And it's also easy for us as embodied souls to relate to Krishna as having a body. There's not a body like ours, but a transcendental form. So yeah, we see somebody who's attractive and we're attracted to them, right? And we want to have a relationship with that person. So we go to the temple and we see Krishna, we see Radha Krishna, Shri Radha Kalachandji here in Dallas, and we become attracted because they're very beautiful and we want to have a relationship with them. So how to have a relationship is that you serve the person, right? You do some nice thing, you offer them something, do something sweet to make them happy. And so when we do that for Krishna, then that's the beginning of our relationship. And so the deity form of the Lord is very important. It helps us to be able to connect with Krishna while we're in the material world, while we're in the material body, while we're not able to see Krishna with our own eyes, the way Arjuna was seeing him, standing right before him, walking with him, talking with him. But at least we can see the deity. And Prabhupada says that the deity is an authorized representation of the Lord. So authorized means that the Lord has agreed to accept our worship through the deity. And so he says this isn't idol worship, because idol worship is like somebody just whimsically makes some statue and says this is God and starts worshiping it. But the Archavigraha, the deity form of the Lord, is a form that's sculpted very carefully according to the directions of scriptures by qualified people who have studied the scriptures and done this art, the service for generations. And the deity is made exactly according to the descriptions of what the Lord's transcendental form actually looks like. Because if we read scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam, we get very detailed descriptions of the form of the Lord, all the different parts of the body of Lord Vishnu and Lord Krishna, and different deities are described in a lot of detail. And so they can carve them like that out of certain materials that the scriptures authorized that the Lord can be made. You can't make him out of like rubber or plastic or something, but you can make him out of marble and brass and certain materials. And then there's a whole ceremony that, according to scriptures again, that you perform that ceremony, which is called the installation, where a very highly qualified Brahmin performs rituals and offers prayers and appeals, makes a request to invite the Lord to enter into the form of the deity and to accept worship from the devotees in that form. So then Prabhupada says it's compared to the authorized post box. So if you want to mail a letter, then you need to put it in the authorized post office, and then the postman's going to come pick it up and, deliver it to the recipient. But if you just, you get your own box and paint it the color and put a sign on there saying, U.S. Postal Service or something, postman is going to see that and just be like, what is that? Like he's not going to pick up the letter from there because it's not an authorized post box. So we can't just concoct any form of the Lord and worship it. The Lord doesn't accept unauthorized worship. But if we follow the system and the process that the Lord has given in the scriptures, then he accepts that because we're working under his direction. So that's one way that we can worship. Of course, in our minds also, we can visualize the form of the Lord as we've read descriptions and heard about it and seen pictures and seen the deity. So even in our mind, we can visualize the form of the Lord, and that's also a way of worshiping the Lord. Right? Krishna says, Man mana bhava mad bhakta, always think of me, become my devotee. So this is a very convincing purport here that Prabhupada says that it's so much easier, especially for a common person, to relate to the deity, to see, oh, this beautiful form of Krishna. And immediately anyone who comes in the temple and sees the beautiful form of the Lord, they immediately feel naturally inspired to bow down, to become sober and serious, to fold their hands and offer some prayer. Like even people who don't understand it or even don't follow the Vedic tradition, there's random people off the street walking in the temple and they're like, oh, wow, something special here. So he says it's very easy for common people to follow. And then on the contrary, he says that impersonalists are taking a troublesome path. And not only is it troublesome, but it's risky because they take all that trouble and there's still the risk of not realizing the absolute truth at the end of it all. Right? Like that yogi's 400 years and he still didn't realize the absolute truth. So it's very troublesome and you're not even, it's questionable whether you're going to actually achieve the goal. Whereas for the personalist, it's Prabhupada says easy, it's natural, and it's without any risk. And without any risk, because the thing is that you're approaching Krishna himself, and so Krishna is going to help you, right? And that's what Krishna is going to say, I think, in this. Yeah, that's what he's going to say in the next verse. So let's just go ahead and read text 6 and 7. Yetu sarvani karmani mai sanyasya matparaha anyanyenaiva yogena mam dhyayanta upasate tesham aham samudharta mrityu samsara sagarat bhavami na chirat partha maya veshita chetasam.
But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of path, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. It is explicitly stated here that the devotees are very fortunate to be delivered very soon from material existence by the Lord. In pure devotional service, one comes to the realization that God is great and that the individual soul is subordinate to Him. His duty is to render service to the Lord, and if he does not, then he will render service to Maya. As stated before, the Supreme should be fully devoted. One should fix his mind fully on Krishna in order to achieve him. one should work only for Krishna. It does not matter in what kind of work one engages, but that work should be done only for Krishna. That is the standard of devotional service. The devotee does not desire any achievement other than pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His life's mission is to please Krishna, and he can sacrifice everything for Krishna's satisfaction, just as Arjuna did in the battle of Kurukshetra. The process is very simple. One can devote himself in his occupation and engage at the same time in chanting
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Such transcendental chanting attracts the devotee to the personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord herein promises that without delay he will deliver a pure devotee, thus engaged from the ocean of material existence. Those who are advanced in yoga practice can willfully transfer the soul to whatever planet they like by the yoga process, and others take the opportunity in various ways. But as far as the devotee is concerned, it is clearly stated here that the Lord Himself takes him. The devotee does not need to wait to become very experienced in order to transfer himself to the spiritual sky. In the Vara Puran, this verse appears.
Nayami paramam sthanam archir adigatim vina garuda skandam aropya yatecham anivaditaha.
The purport of this verse is that a devotee does not need to practice Ashtanga Yoga in order to transfer his soul to the spiritual planets. The responsibility is taken by the Supreme Lord Himself. He clearly states here that He Himself becomes the deliverer. A child is completely cared for by his parents, and thus his position is secure. Similarly, a devotee does not need to endeavor to transfer himself by yoga practice to other planets. Rather, the Supreme Lord, by His great mercy, comes at once, riding on His bird carrier Garuda, and at once delivers the devotee from material existence. Although a man who has fallen in the ocean may struggle very hard and may be very expert in swimming, he cannot save himself. But if someone comes and picks him up from the water, then he is easily rescued. Similarly, the Lord picks up the devotee from this material existence. One simply has to practice the easy process of Krishna consciousness and fully engage himself in devotional service. Any intelligent man should always prefer the process of devotional service to all other paths. In the Narayaniya, this is confirmed as follows.
Yavai sadhana sampatti purushartha chatushtaye kaya vina tarapnoti naro narayanashrayah.
The purport of this verse is that one should not engage in the different processes of fruitive activity or cultivate knowledge by the mental speculative process. One who is devoted to the Supreme Personality can attain all the benefits derived from other yogic processes, speculation, rituals, sacrifices, charities, etc. That is the specific benediction of devotional service. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
a devotee of the Lord can approach the supreme destination easily and happily. By this destination cannot be but this destination cannot be approached by any other processes of religion. The conclusion of Bhagavad Gita is stated in the 18th chapter.
Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam raja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha.
One should give up all other processes of self realization and simply execute devotional service in Krishna consciousness that will enable one to reach the highest perfection of life. There is no need for one to consider the sinful actions of his past life because the Supreme Lord fully takes charge of him. Therefore, one should not
Futilely.
futilely try to deliver himself in spiritual realization. Let everyone take shelter of the supreme omnipotent Godhead, Krishna. That is the highest perfection of life.
Jai. Very ecstatic purport. Long purport by Prabhupada. So yeah, this makes it clear. So Krishna is saying that impersonalists, they take a lot of trouble and they're not even sure if they're going to be successful. Whereas people who worship him in his personal form, it's easy and they're definitely going to be successful. Why? Because, as Prabhupada says, the Lord takes charge of the situation. And we may be weak, but Krishna is strong. We may be dull, but Krishna is the most intelligent. We may not have a lot of power and influence in the world, but Krishna is the supreme controller. And so when Krishna takes charge and he's helping us get back to Godhead, then our deliverance is guaranteed. And he says, I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. So not only does he deliver us, but he does it very quickly. We don't have to wait 400 years or 400 lifetimes. In a very short time, Krishna can deliver us if we just do these things. If we worship him, give up our activities unto him, be devoted to him without deviation, engage in devotional service, always meditate upon him, fix our minds upon him. So just do those things, then all we need to do is think of Krishna, serve Krishna, don't worry about anything else, and Krishna is going to take care of everything. Just like Prabhupada says, a child is completely cared for by his parents, and thus his position is secure. Similarly, a devotee doesn't need to do anything else, just serve Krishna, think of Krishna, depend on Krishna, and his position in spiritual life, his transferal back to Godhead is also secure, because the Lord carries him, basically picks him up and carries him. So yeah, the imagery is there that we're in this huge, raging, stormy ocean of birth and death. And no matter how good a swimmer a person may be, if they've fallen into an ocean, especially if it's a stormy sea, then there's no chance of survival, right? But if somebody comes along in a helicopter and drops down a ladder and says, hey, come on up, then all we need to do is hold on to the ladder. Or maybe even one man comes down on the ladder and he comes down to the bottom and then he reaches down and he picks us up. So that's Krishna. He comes down. We're here in this ocean of birth and death, suffering here in the material world. And Krishna comes swooping down on Garuda, his eagle carrier, giant bird carrier, and just picks up the devotee and puts him on the back of Garuda and brings him straight back home, back to Godhead. So that's how Krishna rescues his devotees. And Prabhupada says that it doesn't matter. You don't need to even consider the sinful activities that you may have done before that, in your previous years in this life, or in your past lifetimes. Don't worry about anything, because Sarvadharma Pratyaja Mamikam Sharanam Raja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayishyami Ma Shuchaha. He says, Ma Shuchaha, don't worry about all the sinful activities you've done in all the past lifetimes. He says, just surrender to me, take exclusive shelter of me, and I will deliver you. I'll free you from all the reactions of your past sins. All your karma is going to get wiped clean and a fresh start, and you can become very pure and remain pure by chanting Hare Krishna. So very simple, easy, natural, and we have all the help from Krishna. But impersonalists are so deluded that even though Krishna comes on Garuda and throws down the ladder, they don't take it. They say, it's okay, I'll make it myself. And then they end up remaining in the ocean for several more lifetimes. So we should take advantage of Krishna's acknowledge Krishna, right? In order to accept someone's help, we have to accept that they exist and that they are capable of helping us. So yeah, I did some reflection on why, what are some of the reasons? Because looking at this contrast between impersonalism and personalism, it's just so obvious which path is the better one, right? Personalism is natural, it's easy, it's simple, it's risk-free, it's Krishna helps, it's blissful. So why would anyone be an impersonalist, right? After reading Bhagavad Gita. So one of the reasons that Prabhupada gives in another purport to Bhagavad Gita, he says is that people are afraid. Basically, it's because of fear, because they've gone through so much trauma in relationships with people in this world. So they're just like, they're afraid of relationship. They're afraid to have a relationship with another person. So if God is a person, that becomes scary for them because they've been hurt by people, they've been exploited, they've been whatever, And so they don't trust anyone anymore, even God, even Krishna. And so, it's like if you've been in toxic relationships, then the thought of being stuck in that kind of relationship eternally is like hell, right? It's like a nightmare. So yeah, the concept of having an eternal relationship with anyone is scary for them. So they would prefer to, instead of even considering an eternal relationship with God or devotees, they would rather just annihilate their individuality and not have to be a person, not have to see people, not have to deal with people. And so they like impersonalism because nobody's a person. Right. The problem is that the soul is inherently a person, so we can't actually deny our individuality as persons. Prabhupada says that's like committing spiritual suicide. You want to end your life, but the soul is eternal, so it's futile. You actually can't end your life, nor can you end your individuality as a person. So it's it's just not successful. Okay, and then another reason that people don't want to accept Krishna as a person is because they're too proud. Because if we're going to accept that there's a God, God by definition means the supreme person, right? So supreme person means he's superior to everyone. No one is greater than him and no one is equal to him. Everyone is lower than him, right? We were reading that the other day in the purport. So people who are very proud, they can't stand seeing somebody higher than them. They want to be the best. And so they want to bring everybody down to their level or lower. So it's hard for them to accept God. So they would rather just deny the existence of anyone, of a supreme person. And then see, the idea of like impersonal liberation is that everybody just merges and becomes one. So they can deal with that because at least, no one's superior to them. Everyone's just equal. We're all one. So and then basically if we're all one, then we're all God. So they like that because then they can, I'm going to become God. It's like everyone else, but I'm going to become God. So that's attractive to people who are very proud. Instead of becoming a servant, right? Someone's proud, they don't want to acknowledge, they don't want to be in a position where I'm like a servant of someone else. I have to accept a master. It's hard for them. And then, similar thing is envy. So envy means that, you want to be the person who owns everything, who controls everything, who enjoys everything, and you want to be God. So that's kind of like the extrapolation of the pride. Pride and envy go together. Pride is like, I want to be the best, and envy means I want to pull down anybody who, seems to be better than me. So they want to pull down God. And yeah. Okay, and then the last one is just ignorance. That people are just kind of ignorant. They just don't know. They lack information about who God really is. And because they haven't come across any descriptions of the personal form of the Lord. Or they've, maybe they've never read the Bhagavad Gita. They've never read Srimad Bhagavatam, or they've read a misinterpretation of Bhagavad Gita that emphasizes impersonalism. So they just, they end up with a misunderstanding about who the supreme absolute truth is. And instead of understanding the truth, that the absolute truth is a person, they think absolute truth is like a non-sentient, no form, no personality. Right? Yeah, so Prabhupada says that this is like, it's one of the worst things that somebody can do is mislead people to think that God is impersonal, because it deprives you of having a loving relationship with the supreme, lovable, wonderful Krishna, right? Yeah, it's like you deprive yourself of actually having any love in your life. You could have eternal blissful love of Krishna, and you deny that. You close the door to that opportunity for people. So yeah. And that's why Srila Vyasadeva was not satisfied even after writing, compiling, like breaking up the Vedas and dividing the Vedas into 4 parts, and writing the Vedanta Sutra and the Puranas and the Itihasas and all these Vedic literatures, so many Vedic literatures. He wasn't satisfied. And then Srila Vyasadeva, Narada Muni came, his spiritual master Narada Muni came down and said, Vyasa, why are you feeling so depressed? Did something bad happen to you? Or is it that you've misled people to think that the impersonal absolute is the supreme? And then Vyasadeva was like, oh yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking that I didn't emphasize enough the personal form of the Lord. And Narada Muni said, exactly. So now you need to write another book. You need to write a commentary on your commentary, because Vedanta Sutra is a commentary on the Vedas. And he says you need to write a commentary on Vedanta Sutra explaining the essence. The essence of the essence is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a person, and his name is Krishna, and that he lives in Vrindavan, and he has a mother and father, Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda. He has friends, all the cowherd boys. He has girlfriends, the gopis, and he has all these pastimes, and these are his different names, his forms, his qualities, his pastimes. And he is the person that everyone should worship and love. So then when Vyasadeva wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam, he was very careful to emphasize Krishna as the supreme. And not just any personal form of the Lord, but Krishna. Like he talks about all the other incarnations who are also personal forms. But out of all these personal forms of the Lord, all the different incarnations, Krishna is the origin. And he's the source of all the others. Okay. All right, so we better stop there because it's almost time. Any reflections, questions, comments on this?
Hundreds of things.
Hundreds of things. Pragati has hundreds of reflections. All right, tell us 99.
No, no. Like in class for since I talk with both kind of people. The one who says that they go to the light and Brahman. So, I read some books and where they want to, but they still think that there is Paramatma and they have a loving. But for the people who think that they are God and they will be Krishna, like they envy God. So they understand that this material world is a cage, but still they are deprived of love. So I think their life is most terrible, and the klesha word who even who thinks unmanifested, they are deprived from the premadhan, and the person who feels like unmanifested and he is God.
Can you tell that boy, don't use the shower till tomorrow,
Okay,
till tomorrow in the morning?
Jai.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Who think that that's actually klesha, which I could see, like practically I've seen those people who are actually terrible, and they know this material world is cage, but they do not have love. So their life is so miserable
Yeah.
and painful, and they couldn't understand anything. They are just in the loop.
Yeah.
So like this makes so much like I could see both the things. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they try to become detached from the world.
But not attached to anything.
Yeah, what to speak, they don't have a relationship with God, and they also feel like, oh, this world is also false. I shouldn't get involved in relationships in this world, or anything, and then they just stay like nowhere, just kind of like in isolation, and it's kind of miserable. Whereas devotees, we can have a relationship with Krishna, and we can also have a relationship with devotees because we know how to keep Krishna in the center of our relationships, and everything becomes spiritualized and blissful. Yeah. Okay, anything else?
Mami, come Sharanam Rajale. He comes to me that way.
Yeah. Yeah, Krishna's so clear, he's like, just come to me, just take shelter of me, just don't worry, forget about everything else, don't worry about it. I'll take care of you, I'll take charge of you. Everything's going to be okay. I'm going to hold your hand through this. I'm going to provide everything that you need. I'm going to purify you of all your, blockages and troublesome things. And everything's just going to be fine. So the thing is, we just need to trust Krishna. Trust Krishna, have faith in Krishna, take shelter of Krishna, think of Krishna, chant Hare Krishna, serve Krishna, serve Krishna's devotees. It's just so simple, As Prabhupada says, simple, easy, natural. And yeah, like this one purport here where Prabhupada is saying that a person in Krishna consciousness, simply by the guidance of the spiritual master, simply offering obeisances to the deity, simply by hearing the glories of the Lord, simply by eating the remnants of food offered to the Lord, realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily, right? Simply do this, simply do that. Everything's just simple, easy, clear, just one thing, not complicated. So, yeah, people make spiritual life unnecessarily difficult, complicated, miserable, and lonely. Whereas Srila Prabhupada, because Lord Chaitanya doesn't even demand that we surrender. He just says, chant Hare Krishna. Just chant, dance, take prasadam, be happy. Yeah, Kevala Ananda Kanda. He gave us a path which is simply joyful. So we should all take to Krishna consciousness and be happy. Jai. All right. Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Let me just see what's going on here. How do I get to that thing? See what's going on here on YouTube. Wait, how do I go there? Gotta do it. Oh yeah, here it is. Ah, no comments today. Okay, very good. Everybody's satisfied. All right then. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki